Hey everyone, it's Yggdrasiel, and I am so very excited because today's discussion video is the very first collaboration one that is on my channel, and it was my absolute pleasure to work with today's guest, Madkaiser. He's known for his deep love of JRPGs. I most notably see him talking about the Tales of series of games, but also a bit of a dabbler into Xenoblade, and I'm very glad to have gotten his thoughts on some questions that I posed to him regarding Xenoblade Chronicles 3's Wave 4 DLC story. To that end, I asked him 3 questions related to the Wave 4 DLC story, and then as a bonus I asked him how he got into Xenoblade Chronicles and what his first entry was, as I always just like seeing how people got into this wonderful series. With all of that said, the way this video is going to work is we will first hear his thoughts on the question I posed to him, and then I'll follow up with just a few brief thoughts of my own. And for my own part, I will not be going off of any material that I've discussed in my spoiler videos, so please rest easy. Lastly, before we begin, I've put a link to Madkaiser's YouTube channel and Twitter in the description down below, so please, by all means, go and give this man a follow. And now, with all that said, let's get stuck into the video.
Hey everyone, what up? Madkaiser here. And first, I want to give a thanks to Yggdrasiel for letting me be part of this video. I'm honestly just overall honored to be here, and it's nice talking about some Xenoblade since I took a little bit on my channel, of course, as I really just love Xenoblade and it's one of my favorite RPG series of all time. So I was gonna give some things to talk about, and is what are my thoughts about Wave 4 DLC and what do I hope to see in it, any predictions I was given. I think predictions wise, I think this is more or less going to be sort of a prequel rather than say an epilogue for Xenoblade 3, where I think it's more on the toner side of prequel rather than like say epilogue what happens after the events of Xenoblade 3, where I can imagine it will give a little bit more on what's happening with what the worlds were like post Future Connected and post Xenoblade 2 worlds, and just to see whether or not like what's happening with Shulk and Rex, because obviously we know that Nia and Melia are alive in Xenoblade 3 in Ionios, and of course even Poppy was here, but we haven't seen like the rest. Like we saw like say a photograph of the other members of Xenoblade 2 with a Rex image, good on you Rex, and also we just saw the Monado Rex, is that what they call it. Honestly, I think with the way Alvis is acting, I do think that he might be also what many are theorizing to be the missing console A, because in the base game obviously there was meant to be 26 like Mobius, I think 26 or 27 Mobius, and all we got was from Mobius B to all the way to Z, obviously, and people are realizing that Alvis is the console A and Z, well, obviously is the end of the alphabet, while A is the beginning of the alphabet, so obviously they'll have the Alpha, the Omega, the whole beginning and the end, which thematically would make a lot of sense. Like I think Alvis is console A, he's the beginning, while console Z, is basically what Mobius said, as you might say, is the end. Like that's why he has the endless now thing, where things will where he tries to make things never ending because of things. So I think this is more or less a prequel, and I think if I had to give a theory, is that mysterious guy who looks like Faye from Xenogears might be either another founder like what Shulk and technically Rex are, but also he could be like an ancestor to Noah. Like Noah could be based on who that mysterious guy is, because he also has, from what I can see, also Ouroboros in a sense. Like he might be the one that help make that kind of power. So that's my prediction, at least.
As for my own thoughts, I'm still quite unsure of how they plan to have things move around time-wise beyond the start of the game. Likely it's going to hit off with that cutscene with Shulk and Rex against Alvis, but I fully agree with Madkaiser right here in that there is a purposeful exclusion of a console A within the base story of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And he makes an excellent parallel with Z being the last lettered console, wanting to try and preserve his endless now. But as we all know, Alvis is not simply the one who was there at the beginning, he is also the one who will proclaim the end. And I've no doubt we will see Alvis then at both the prologue and epilogue of this journey that was the Way Forward DLC story and where it's going to take us. And yeah, 100% this guy is a founder who's in some way trying to understand the power of Ouroboros. Completely agree there.
Is there anything from Future Connected or Torna that you would like to see in the DLC story? If there's one thing I'd like to see from any of the expansions from past Xenoblade games into this one, it's mainly just for, let's say for Torna's case, an improved combat system, because while I did like Xenoblade 3's combat in general in the base game, I do admit it was a little bit lacking in a sense compared to Xenoblade 2's combat, and dare I say it, I even enjoyed Torna's combat. I think that's personally my favorite combat in the entire series. Discounting X because I haven't played that game. Nintendo, please port that, please remaster, remake, whatever, do it soon. I honestly think like obviously they might add some new mechanics maybe to it. Like I think depending on how many characters we can play in the DLC compared to base game, like it'll probably be those three, Shulk, Rex, and that other guy who actually come to think of it might be the other wielder of Lucky 7. So that, yeah, I think something like an improved like a new gimmick that could, add things to, make the combat a little bit more streamlined and obviously just still fun as the base game. Like there might not be as much classes in, say, the expansion compared to the base game, which is fine. Like a lot of them were overwhelming and a lot of them were, some were better than others. So yeah, I do think that it'll be a lot more streamlined and a little bit stripped back, but also improved in some areas. So yeah, I do think that's what I want to see, like just improved combat and stuff like that.
Full agree right here. A shorter game as compared to the base story does not need as much mechanical bloat either while fighting or within the menus. This was the case with both Future Connected and Torna, and I think it makes sense to have things a bit more toned down, a bit more digestible for the length that they are insinuating the Way Forward DLC story will be as compared to the base game of Xenoblade 3. And while yeah, I am sure we will be getting less classes in this DLC story, I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how they put a spin on these pre-existing classes. We can clearly see that this guy is going to be going off the martial artist class, and if I had to take a stab at things, Shulk is going to be using Sword Fighter, while maybe Rex could be going off of Life Sage. I'm quite keen to see how they can work these classes a bit differently, like how Mithra, Bridget, and Aegean's kits felt quite different in Torna as compared to what they had in the base story of Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
What do I not want to see in the DLC story? This is a pretty obvious thing, and this is something I hope they obviously learn from Torna, is to not have that stupid community gimmick or any side of effect where they have, a side quest gimmick where if you don't complete this entire rank, if you don't get a high rank, you can't progress to the story. Like I hate, pace breakers that force players to have to, go to do millions of side quests only to actually progress through the story. Like honestly, that should not be a thing. I do hope that Torna, Xenoblade Wave 4, gosh, I'm saying these things so bad. I hope that this DLC does not repeat the same mistake as Torna's DLC. Torna is what I'm saying.
Personally, community is a conflicting gimmick for me. For one, I'm gonna go against the grain here, hear me out. I was quite fine with the community feature in Torna, but only during my first run of the game. It pushed me to grow further with the cast that I had and see the plights of everyday characters back during the Aegis War, while familiarizing myself with Torna before its own tragic ending. It undoubtedly padded the playtime for one's playthrough in Torna, and I can't imagine Xenoblade 3's DLC story being as long as Torna without a similar feature to also pad it, unless it's just a pure story bonanza. Otherwise, we'd have something more akin to Future Connected, and given that Monolith Soft is trying to narratively close off the Klaus saga with this DLC story, I can't see that being the case either. I guess if ultimately a community-like feature has been implemented into the Way 4 DLC story, my earnest hope is that it is a completely optional feature after a first playthrough, maybe for New Game Plus, or maybe it's a little bit less restrictive, maybe the barriers to progressing the story are more toned down as compared to Torna's.
And lastly, but surely not least, is a personal one, and that is, how did I get into the Xenoblade series, and which was my first entry? Well, I mainly got to the Xenoblade series mainly due to the hype of Xenoblade 3 and a lot of my friends who were into JRPGs like say Tales of, Fire Emblem, Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, Nier Automata, all that stuff. And I saw a lot of my friends into Xenoblade, especially with the release of Xenoblade 3 being announced, and I was like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna get into this because my friends liked my JRPGs, which was called Tales of. I feel like I should return the favor, and when Xenoblade 3 got its date pushed back, I immediately jumped aboard and started with Xenoblade, the Definitive Edition, and really enjoyed it a lot. And then I also kind of enjoyed Future Connected, and then after that I played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and I personally liked it as much as the first game, in some areas even better, and Torna was just absolutely wonderful, except for the community. Everything about Torna was chef's kiss, and here we are with Xenoblade 3. I absolutely love that game, and if you saw my top 5 games of 2022, it is my favorite game from last year. So yeah. Anyway, thank you Yggdrasiel for having me, it's been an honor, and I'm looking forward to what Wave 4 of Xenoblade 3 DLC will embark and show us. Honestly, I'm looking forward to it.
And thank you, Madkaiser, for taking some time to give us some of your opinions on the Wave 4 DLC story. I truly hope that all of you have enjoyed listening in on his thoughts of what I asked him and my own input, but that is where we're going to be ending things for now. One last time, please feel free to check out Madkaiser with links to his YouTube channel and Twitter in the description down below. And if you are also a content creator listening in and would like to have a collaboration with me, by all means, please feel free to send me a DM on Twitter. I am usually more than happy to discuss anything video game related, honestly. The Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Wave 4 DLC story is now predicted to come out by July 29 of this year, 1 year after the release of the original game. And you can bet I'll not only be covering any new information that comes out, but I'll be streaming the game here on YouTube when it's out as well. But until next time, thank you all very much for taking the time to listen in, and as always, have a great day.